Am I the asshole for calling my sister a misogynist and telling her that she needs to find a different career? My 26F sister, 29F. And I got into a huge argument the other day and I really need some perspective. My sister has been working as an L&D nurse for a few years now. She has always wanted to be a nurse and has even said that it was her calling. Lately, she has been making horrible remarks about the mothers that come to her. Now, I understand that every job is going to have its problems and sometimes you need to vent about rude people, management, pay, etc. However, this was not like that. For example, she talked about one of her patients, which she referred to as white whale. My sister said that white whale went into labor and brought her husband with her. She talked about how hot her husband was and how she could not understand how whale was able to pull someone like him. She laughed when recalling the sounds she made when pushing out her child, and said that she didn't look like the type of woman to be strong enough to go the natural route. In the past, she has talked about how another mom to be defecated on the table, and she remarked that she wouldn't be surprised if her husband divorced her after seeing something so nasty. Other stories included a teenage patient who just couldn't keep her legs closed. Here, my sister claimed that she gave her some sound advice, and I'm honestly scared to know what she had said to this young girl. With this girl, my sister laughed about she gave her a nurse dose of pain meds to get her to shut up, and refused to give her a blanket, since, if she wants to act like an adult, then she deserves to be treated like one. The fight between her and I happened a few days ago, due to her talking about a mother who delivered a premature baby. She admitted that she told this mother that she should have done a better job if she didn't want to have a baby born at 29 weeks. I blew up at my sister and asked her how she could be so heartless. My sister told me that she should have the right to vent about stupid mothers who don't know how to do the thing their body is designed for. She also said that I don't work in healthcare, so I have no right to remark on how she handles stress at work. I told her that if her way of handling stress is to be a misogynist, then she needs to find a different career. I left afterwards. My other family members have been divided on this issue. My husband is on my side. My mom and brother think that I was in the right to call my sister out, while my aunt, uncle and dad are leaning towards my sister, saying that my sister shouldn't have to kiss up to her patients in order to do her job efficiently. I feel bad for some of the things I said and I know that she needs to let off steam, but saying horrible things about women in their most vulnerable time isn't cutting it for me. In addition, my family does not know this yet, but I'm pregnant. And hearing about how my sister, a nurse, is treating pregnant women just makes me scared for labor and delivery. So, am I the asshole? OMG, not the asshole, and you should report her to her accreditation body. She's not just venting, she's recounting instances of her hideously inappropriate behavior. No one should be subjected to care like that. Your sister sounds cruel and heartless, and I feel so bad for every patient who has ever had to deal with her. Really, such a person deserves to be removed from this job because she's probably doing a lot of psychological damage to people like that teenage girl you mentioned, and just overall the way she speaks to you about everything. It's clear she has no empathy or even human decency really. Not the asshole, but if I were in your place I would report her to her management. Congratulations on your pregnancy. Your sister needs to be reported. She sounds like someone we will hear about on the news. Not the asshole. Venting is one thing, but she's dehumanizing her patients. Her job is to care for people, that's not kissing up, as some of your family members put it. I would suggest reporting her if that's an option. She's unfit for working in healthcare. Not the asshole. Your sister isn't just a misogynist, she is also overstepping boundaries, a bully and abusive. On top of that, she is unprofessional and doesn't seem to be the sharpest tool. Women defecate while giving birth. That's something that just happens and trained midwives will discreetly wipe it away without anyone noticing. Also, passing judgment on her patients is not part of her job description. She's a massive asshole. Congratulations on your pregnancy. Your sister's behavior is not normal. Should anyone treat you like that, report them immediately. Am I the asshole for lightly scolding a 12-year-old because the birthday gift he gave to my son was broken? Recently, we had a birthday party for my 32 female son, 7 male. He invited some of his classmates and our neighbor's kids who he's close with. One of them was a 12-year-old boy who brought a doll-type thing which glowed and made noises if you pressed a button. We opened the present later after the party, and even though my son was happy to receive it, I noticed that the toy had a cracked shoulder. The next day, when the boy came to play with my son and the other kids, I asked him who brought the gift, and he said he did it. I showed him the broken part and lightly scolded him. I simply told him that if he was going to spend money buying something, he should have checked the thing. I gave it back to him and told him to ask the store to replace it since it's broken. I thought it was a good life lesson and that he'd remember this. It would help him when he buys something later on. It would teach him not to waste his money. However, later that evening his mom called me and told me that I was very rude to her son. She said, and I quote, "If someone gives you a gift, you just appreciate it and don't say anything even if it's not that good. Especially when it's a kid." Turns out, he bought it with his own pocket money, and he put a lot of thought into it. He did replace the gift, but he has stopped coming to play with my son. Am I the asshole? I genuinely didn't mean to upset him. I didn't even really scold him. I talked to him very gently and only explained it to him. Edit. Alright. I'll accept that I was the asshole and apologize. You are the asshole. And not lightly either. I thought it was a good life lesson and that he'd remember this. It wasn't, but he will. Now it's your turn for a life lesson. Shame that it's taken until you're a fully grown adult with children. You are the asshole. Christ on a cracker. Where did you get the idea that it was your job to impart life lessons on the neighbor kid? He went out of his way to pick a gift for your child, bought it himself, and was very proud. You might have known that if you had done any inquiries beyond, "Was this from you?" Most stores have a return policy that allows you to exchange like items or receive store credit. If you, not your child, were so butthurt that it was lightly cracked, you could have gone and exchanged it instead of putting the responsibility on a 12-year-old, who, again, isn't yours to teach. You are the asshole big time. Wow. A kid went out of their way to make sure they could bring your son a birthday present, and instead of modeling maturity and gratitude, you humiliated him? You are the asshole. Of course. A flaming one. You are the asshole. It wasn't your place to teach him anything. He made a genuine effort to give your son a gift and then you soured the whole thing. You owe him an apology for this. Am I the asshole for getting up and lining up to exit the airplane before the people in front of me got up? I just got off a Southwest flight, no seat assignments, and I was sat towards the very back of the plane when we landed. People at the front got up to get ready but no one in the middle section got up. I was in the aisle seat and I only had a backpack, so I took the opportunity and walked to the front of the plane to line up behind the people in the very front. While I was waiting to exit the airplane, the person sitting in the seat next to where I was standing asked me, "Have the rules changed?" And I pretended not to hear him because I had headphones on and I didn't say anything to him. Then he got up and said, "Why don't you go back to the back and wait like everyone else?" I didn't respond again, but this time there was a lady behind me who said she needed to catch her connecting flight that was already boarding. The guy then said, "Well, the rules haven't changed, but if you want to be a jerk, go ahead." The lady who had the connecting flight definitely had a valid reason to cut in line. But when was this ever a rule law? I don't think I did anything wrong because everyone who I skipped could have gotten up and waited in the aisle, so am I the asshole here? Edit 1. Grammar. Edit 2. Added airline for more context. Edit 3. I got out of my seat after the seatbelt sign was off and the bridge was connected to the plane. You are the asshole. This is a good example showing that common courtesy and common sense aren't so common. You are the asshole. If even half of those in the back of the plane acted as you did, it would take twice as long to let everyone but the first 3 rows off. If you find yourself where you think your personal benefit is equal to making it take twice as long for absolutely everyone, you are definitely an asshole. You are bad at merging, too, betcha. I'm convinced people who do what you do are either uneducated or don't fly often. Sadly, there are people who are just rude. You are the asshole. Not the asshole. If the aisle was clear and you were ready to go, you didn't prevent anyone from getting off. If they know there are tight connection passengers, they will usually make an announcement asking people to remain seated to allow those passengers to deplane first. However, if that isn't the situation, then unless you are blocking others, op was fine. I have over 1 million air miles and this isn't a rule anywhere. I'm gonna go with not the asshole. It is mostly done that you wait for those in front to go before you do. However, you just go when you can. Nothing wrong with that. I can't tell you how many times I only have a backpack and have to wait for people behind me to go first because they put stuff in the overhead bins several seats in front of their own. And made a dash to get there while I was waiting for there to be room for me to get out. You get up and out when you can. There is no rule about who goes first. Just easier to wait till you are able to. Am I the asshole for not giving my family a heads up that I'm dating again after my husband's death? My 45F husband, Tim, and I married right out of college. We had a very happy first decade of marriage, including having 2 children, Luke and Beth, who are now 21M and 19F. However, when in our 30s, Tim developed severe depression and substance use disorder, alcohol and painkillers. His depression was treatment-resistant and that made him unable to fight his other addictions. Despite numerous inpatient psychiatric stays, and several stints in rehab, he passed away of an overdose 5 years ago, at age 40. We don't know, and will likely never know, if the overdose was accidental or intentional. After Tim's passing, I was 100% focused on helping our children be as okay as possible. Despite his demons, he was a great dad when he was able to be, and losing him was completely devastating for all of us. Lots of individual and family therapy helped, and Luke was able to graduate from high school with high honors and get a college scholarship, out of state. Beth graduated last year with similar honors and is also now in college, several states away. With both Luke and Beth now adults and away from home, I can finally focus more on myself. It took me a long time, at least 3 years, after Tim's passing before I could even think about wanting to date again. Then for the next year I was focused on getting Beth through her last year of high school and off to college. However, once she went off to school in the fall I started to dip my toe into dating apps. It's been slow going. I've probably had a dozen or so dates total, mostly first dates that didn't go anywhere. There was one guy the first went out with 4 times, but we decided not to continue as we weren't feeling a more than friendship spark. So, here's where the problem is. Last week, a cousin of Tim saw me out on a date. She was in town for business and just happened to be at the same restaurant. She made a bit of a scene, coming up to the table and demanding to know what I was doing with betraying my husband, which really confused the gentleman I was out with. She then stormed out and, apparently, called Tim's parents, who then called Luke and Beth. Now everyone is furious at me because I hadn't given a heads up that I was starting to date again. My thought was I don't need to give the play-by-play on my dating life, especially when it might be hurtful. I figured that if I actually started seeing someone regularly, I would let folks know, but until then there didn't seem to be anything to tell. Especially as Tim's parents live across the country and Luke and Beth are away at college. However, everyone involved, Tim's cousin, his parents, my kids, and assorted other relatives and friends who now know, say I am a huge asshole for not telling people in advance that I was moving on. So, am I the asshole here? Not asking if I ATA for dating at all. I've been a widow for 5 years. Just if I am the asshole for letting people find out without a proactive heads up. Not the asshole. You are a grown woman with a right to a life and privacy. You owe no one the details of your life, not even your adult kids. Your cousin is a huge asshole for the scene she made. I'm sure everyone still feels the loss of your husband, but that doesn't mean they get to dictate how you live your life now. Well done for being brave. Keep going. Edit. Thanks for the upvotes and awards. Not the asshole, but I'd probably have given my kids a heads up that I was dating. But you owe your in-laws nothing, especially after 5 years. Not the asshole. Are you living in a country besides America? What's with the whole betraying your husband crap? Is she delusional? You have more than every right to date and it's nobody's freaking business. 3 years? You're a saint. Not the asshole. Their misguided ownership over your private life is mistaken. The only people you have any obligation to communicate anything with is your children, and even that is a courtesy, not to ask permission. Not the asshole. A 45-year-old woman doesn't need anyone's permission to do anything with her life. Your husband died, you are not betraying him. The only people who have a right to know anything are your children.